G'day, it's Matt here from Couple of Cities again, and wow, we've been shopping. There's a box down here. We're going to be chucking a bed base in. We've decided not to go with the marine ply as a base. Some concerns in relation to the breathability. There's been quite a few people who have travelled through parts of Australia that we're going to, where they've demonstrated that they've got increased moisture collecting because they've used a marine ply base, and there's no real airflow around the mattress. Some of them actually look like maybe the mattress up against a window, and the window has just been collecting condensation, has just been sucked into the mattress and the bedding that way. So we're not too sure, but for a couple of reasons, we're going to shift to an IKEA base, which is quite light. And we're also going to be using the marine ply that we were putting aside for the bed base to help build some of the cabinetry. So that's one part. We will get to that in another video. But what we have got for you today, lots of cable. So I had a couple of concerns in relation to what kind of cable I actually needed to make sure that we'd have the right kind of power making its way from the battery all the way back to the appliances. And you know what? I had a chat with the guys at Sandgate, and they said, yep, sounds like you're on the right track. After I put it all into ChatGPT and said, all right, GPT, here's what I got. Here's what I'm doing. Here's what I want to achieve. Tell me, is this cable going to be suitable? And yeah, GPT looked at like power loss and draw and all sorts of stuff. I'll put a link to it in the description, and we'll probably even throw together a bit of a blog post for it, because I was blown away at how detailed it was in its steps as it walked through all this stuff. So on the back of that conversation with AI, sometimes more A, less I, but in this case it turned out to be a little bit more I. So had a chat with the Sparkies, and they're going, yep, you're on track, sweet, cool, GPT worked, going shopping. So now I've got to pull this stuff through. I've got 24 meters of the, what is this stuff? Oh, let's have a look. This is dark. It's dark in here. So this is a 6G, 23 meters of 6G. And this is 12G, 11 meters of 12G. So that 12G is only going to be used for the two LED lights up the top. The 6G is going to be used for the fans, because they're going to require a bit more, and because of the length of where it's got to get to, that's the recommendations. So I'm going to get stuck into it. figured that what I'd do is try and get the cables as tidy as possible, and I'll give you a quick look at what I've done and explain why I've done it the way I've done it. Not that I'm questioning anyone's proficiency or competence, but it's just my OCD brain kicking in and just knowing what I've run through and trying to make it as easy as possible for whoever it is that's doing the wiring up. So let me give you a quick squeeze. So up the top there, you can see that we've got one short length of cable, or thin length of cable. That's for the LED lights, and there's a couple of housings you can see just up the top there. I've run a bit of conduit in between them so that when the two lights get fitted, they can run the wire between the two. We've got the next coil there for our fan that'll be going in. When we come up here to the ceiling, we've got the wiring for the ceiling fan, and there's a box that's been built around it. I've got a little hole there for the cable to go through, which that'll be okay. Once the roof goes up, we'll just feed the cable through that cavity, cut a little hole in the roof and just drop it down, and that way they'll know that it's roughly in the middle. And then we've got the last fan hanging there, which will get fitted to the roof there somewhere. So there's about 1 metre tail on each one of those cables. In some cases, like the ceiling vent fan thing, probably about 1.5 metres. So look, I probably could have saved 30 or 40 bucks on cabling by not going the extra, but I'd rather have the extra that can get, you know, used in other areas, or they chuck it, whatever, than not have enough and make the job really hard. So down the back here, you can see there's a couple of cables running through. It's actually the front. The two white cables are 240 volt, and the blue network cable is for the controller for the solar unit, which has all been fed through the back here. We've got some conduit that's been stuck in there for future proofing. So the conduit ends just near that first 240 volt cable, and the last one ends just near the very front 240 volt cable too. So I've got the measurements for those. I'll have that drawing in with the vehicle manual, owner's manual, that sort of stuff. Down the bottom here, we've got tags on each one of these. So we've got the rear fan, we've got the LED lights, we've got the front fan, and we've got the vent and the network cable there, all being run through there. I'll put that box back on, and then I'll mount the panel on the side. We've got the 240 volt cables at the back there, which can get plugged straight into the inverter or whatever they do, and plenty of space, hopefully that's clean and clear enough for them to be able to work in, because they're going to be putting a 240 volt adapter thing in there so that we can power up when we get to campsites. Yeah, that is pretty much it. So I am going to put covers and stuff back on before it gets too dark, clean up, and go and take these puppies for a walk. All right, see you on the next one.